T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
Okay, we got a roll program.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading. Plus 30 seconds. Altitude's 2 miles.
Oh, 11 Houston, you're good at 1 minute.
Downrange 1 mile, altitude 4 miles now. Velocity 2,195 feet per second.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of time that we were photographing the solar corona what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any.
Neil, you were...
I don't remember seeing any.
Neil, you were...
Turns into rain. Lonely winds will call my name. Lonely winds will...
One of the things that we want to talk about is what we were discussing a little bit ago, and that is the significance of this NASA war document that was found on the NASA website, and the need to urgently get this out in front of as many people as possible because of the content of this document.
So was this document available to everyone, or this was on their actual website and someone found it?
That is correct. It was on the NASA website, and it was a document that actually is a PowerPoint presentation by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the Langley Center. And it was presented in 2001, July of 2001, just a few months before 9/11. And what brought my attention to it and immediately rang some uncomfortable realizations was when we first came across it. It says on the website, Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare circa 2025. And as I decided to just flip through it quickly to see what it was about, I was a little stunned on page 4. It said, the presentation is based in all cases upon existing data, trends, analysis technologies, no pixie dust. And the entire premise of the document, or the PowerPoint, is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. So I immediately saw a conflict between future and now. And I thought, what are they covering up? Because that was a definite cover-up. And then I started to continue looking through the document with shock. And that's why we're talking right now, because I think most people would be shocked to find on page 93.
So who wrote this NASA document, and was this intentional? Did they want the public to see this, do you think? Or?
Well, again, the Illuminati, the most wealthy, rich men on the face of the planet, always telegraph everything that they're going to do. So the fact that it was on the NASA website, it was certainly available to the public, but did they see it? Obviously not. Because had they looked at this document, you would know about it right now.
We walked out of the room, and President Nixon said, I've decided to do that, and I need you to do this job. We're going to do it. It was just amazing. So we were trying to figure out who would do what when. He simply has got to have the person he wants in that job. And it has to be someone who's capable of doing it. And it has to be somebody he knows well. I said, I'd like to talk to one person. And he said, who?
Donald Rumsfeld was the first to propose Stanley Kubrick. The film would have to be perfect, but the set could never be built in time. The filming of 2001: A Space Odyssey was drawing to a close in a suburb of London. Why not use the sets there? Rumsfeld was sure that Kubrick would not refuse. During the Kennedy administration, the White House had granted him special authorization to access strategic areas of the Pentagon during the preparations for the film Dr. Strangelove. Kubrick owed them. I told Mr. Nixon it's very dangerous to lie in the United States. You can't pull a con like that in a democracy. Too many people would talk. It would be absurd. But he said, almost sadly, go ahead anyway. Rumsfeld offered to go and negotiate personally with Stanley Kubrick. He and Henry Kissinger flew to England that same evening. Kubrick was surprised and amused by the idea, but began by refusing. Rumsfeld wouldn't give up. We're only asking you to do one thing. Just leave us the keys to the studio for one weekend, just so we can shoot a bit of film and take a few shots. Everything will be tidied up again by Monday morning. Kissinger flattered him, telling him that Dr. Strangelove was one of Nixon's favorite films. In the end, Kubrick agreed. The fake footage would be shot in England in the MGM studios near Boreham Wood with a skeleton crew. The 2 technicians and 2 actors would be CIA agents. To guarantee their trustworthiness, all had to be single men without family ties. They would sign a contract committing themselves to perpetual silence about the whole affair. Once the filming was over, they would have to disappear. But Stanley Kubrick was a perfectionist. Faced with the CIA crew's lack of professionalism, he ended up, against his better judgment, supervising the shooting of the fake moonwalk. But, he told them, from Monday morning, you're out of my life for good.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap. So, I guess you want to do it again. Okay.
All the theories about the movie The Shining by Stanley Kubrick, and my theory, of course, is #1 featured in it, and I was reluctant when I first did it because I thought they were going to treat me shabbily, and they didn't, and the critics, however, have not treated me too well. But what's interesting about it is that not only is it playing in theaters all over the country right now, but and not only is it a decent film, although
room 237.
Yeah, room 237.
Okay. Yeah.
There's everyone has a different theory about The Shining.
Yeah.
I think my theory combines all the other theories except for what I consider to be the most ridiculous theory in the movie, which is the theory that The Shining was about the Holocaust. I mean, I fell off my chair laughing so hard when I read that one. I thought the moon landing theory at least has evidence behind it. Mm-hmm. So it's been an interesting experience and very useful for the whole getting out the truth about Stanley Kubrick. So I appreciate it. And what's interesting about it is that Stanley Kubrick's assistant, Leon Vitali, who was with him for the last 28 years of his life.
He knows.
He had an article, an interview in the New York Times, I believe it was not last Sunday, the Sunday before, in which I was mentioned among the theories. And he virulently denied every one of the theories, except for one, which he decided not to mention hardly at all. Which happened to be my theory.
Very good.
And, and you can tell more by what people don't say than what they say. And he's ripping up the Holocaust theory. He's ripping up the, all the theories that were presented. And then, he doesn't hardly mention, somebody just brought an Apollo 11 sweatshirt on the set that day. I'm like, yeah, right. Stanley, who, wrote down, every single thing that should happen on the set, would just let someone bring a sweater up on the set that day and put it on the kid.
237. In the book, The Shining, the room number is 217, but for the film, Kubrick changed it to 237. Here's the true reason why. The Moon, the natural satellite of Earth visible by reflection of sunlight and traveling around Earth in a slightly elliptical orbit at an average distance of about 381,600 kilometers. The American Heritage Science Dictionary. 381,600 kilometers converted to miles is 237,000. Room 237 represents the Moon. Danny enters Room 237, the Moon Room. This is where Stanley Kubrick films the Apollo 11 moon landing.
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
You want me to knock you in the head?
Well, I want you to swear to God on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
Okay.
If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the hell knocked out of you if you don't leave me alone.
So why don't you just put the end to the record in the argument and put your hand on the Bible, swear to God you walked on the moon.
Mr. Cybro, knowing you, that's probably a fake Bible.
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't you talk to the administrator at NASA? We're passengers. We're guys going on a flight.
I don't hit people, but you're going to be on the deck unless you get
I'm heading out. I appreciate it.
and get the hell out of my house.
Well,
Take your stuff and get the fuck out. Why don't you quote me and say it's bullshit?
When the shadows interact with, I don't give a damn about all that shit.
Of lunar orbit being falsified.
Being falsified?
Correct. We've got an unedited tape from a source at the Johnson Space Center.
Totally nonsense.
Mr. Cybro, you do not deserve answers.
If you show this publicly, you're open for a lawsuit. Okay?
We're talking about Apollo, and let's not even talk about whether or not we went there. Let's just talk about the Cold War and the fact that we had to go there. We had to succeed. We couldn't take a chance on not succeeding. A tremendous black eye. So to guarantee success, what's the obvious thing to do? You recreate it. You stage it. So you've got it to release in case something goes wrong. And then they got to the point, obviously, where they said, well, why take a chance at all? Let's just go with what we've got in the can. That's my guess.
Yeah, and, the more that you examine it, the more actually ludicrous the whole thing gets, to the point where it's almost a comedy.
So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Oh, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. Only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. So I say, I wonder what they're doing out here. What is all this equipment for? I'm sure it can't be NASA, right? Whose orange Hummer is this? Okay, that looks like a NASA symbol. Cameras set up, tents, ATVs, food. They've been there a while. It's not a one-day trip. Got their antennas set up out in the middle of nowhere in Greenland.
Things seem to finally be coming together with the moon landing. We were there on the surface of another planet. You could see it on TV. Well, first it was projected onto a silver screen, and then the TV cameras were allowed to film off the silver screen, because obviously you wouldn't want the real footage. I mean, if you want to go back and look at the real footage of the initial moon landing, you can't, because it's been taped over by NASA, and no one was fired, no one was punished. Of course, they want to get rid of the evidence. Now at this stage, a band of Apollo faithful will be howling in protest, "We did go to the moon!" Then why did nothing come of it? Why have we not been back in 40 years? The Apollo faithful will say, "Oh, it's budget priorities, we've been there, we've done that, it's not economical to mine on the moon." That just doesn't hold water. That's a load of rubbish. We haven't been back to the moon because we never went there in the first place.
So this one here said, roving the Arctic. So what is that? Not making sense. Pop in here. See if we can find anything. Again, same kind of mountains. That looks like the same kind of water I've seen before that I thought was water on Mars. Who knows? Zoom in, what's that? Oh, nothing. Just looked like it was funny. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah. So. I think I found out where Mars is, guys. It's just about 1,000 miles north of me. Not quite the distance that NASA says. But I can't find anybody who's in charge of this. They must be hiding behind these rocks. Oh no, there they are out in front of everybody. Just standing there. Lovely. Clown number 1, clown number 2, and clown number 3.
The conflict between the future and the fact that they said it was a current reality in 2001 of July when this was actually presented. And what it said, which was quite shocking, on page 93, it said, "Capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time." And that is an unbelievable statement. Then it's followed up by saying, "Terror attacks within the continental United States using binary biologicals take down critical infrastructure." They are going to use an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse. They're going to use radiation frequencies against our brains, etc., and conduct serious psy-war and collateral damage and exploitation. On this same page 93, they say exploit CNN syndrome. Now CNN, of course, is the network, the news media network, propaganda machine, and was set up by the CIA. You can watch the movie called Psy-War on stopthecrime.net for all the background information on CNN. Very, very interesting information. Then you go on and you read that on page 66, they say increasingly critical are human limitations and human downsides. Humans are too large, humans are too heavy, too tender, humans are too slow, both physically and mentally, and we require huge logistical trains, meaning we cost way too much money to maintain, and humans have rapidly decreasing to negative value. Can you even believe this? I mean, you're hearing this, and it's got to be rather shocking coming off of a NASA website, particularly when some of the agencies that are involved are the U.S. Air Force, DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, Southern Command, Atlantic Command, Australian Department of Defense, and other agencies. This is the corporation's agencies. We are USA Inc. We're no longer under a constitution as proclaimed in the Iron Mountain Report, which everyone should read. On stopthecrime.net, you can download it not only as the document, but you can watch the documentary, which I highly recommend. You will see how the stealth and deceptive, incrementally positioned attacks upon the Constitution have rendered us now a corporation. And we no longer have a legitimate government. We are being controlled by corporations and banks that are posing as a legitimate government, and they're not. We wouldn't have a legitimate government with the war machine stating what they were going to do on the continental United States to all the people. And this is not just in the United States. This is a global planned attack and assault with technologies beyond most people's comprehension. Everyone is buying books and ammunition, guns and ammunition, and they don't realize that the beam weapons, for example, on page 45, beam weapons increasingly prevalent. This is how they're going to attack. They talk also about, on page 9, this is very interesting and horrifying. Humans have taken over and vastly shortened evolution. They're going to direct evolution. They believe, the bankers, the global elites, believe that they have accomplished immortality. And they're doing that, again, keeping in mind that this entire document is about robots, cyborgs, and humans. They've already mapped our brains. We've just recently heard that they can transfer a human brain into machinery. So whenever they tell us that this is a new scientific discovery, we know it's been decades and decades prior to us ever finding out about these things. And they also talk about microdust as a weapon. They say that this micron-sized mechanized dust, which is distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into the lungs, the dust mechanically bores into the lung tissue and executes various pathological missions. They say it's a completely new type of warfare, and it is legal. It's legal. This is what they're going to do to all the humans on the face of this planet. It's all legal. And then they talk about how the use of frequencies will be used in warfare. And we know, for example, the smart meters that are being deployed around the globe, the replacement of our electric meters, which will also and does include the replacement of all of our gas meters and our water meters as well, and will be connected to our food supply when they collapse the currency and they issue energy allowances, and that will all be controlled through the metering system. But they talk about the use of low frequencies, microwave frequencies, and they mention in this NASA document the U.S. Army report. The U.S. Army report is on our website, smartmetersmurder.com. It's about a 20-page Army document that talks about the use of frequencies to target the enemy. We're the enemy. And they say 100% of the human population will be affected by these frequencies. Some will be the canaries in the coal mine, which is a term that they've been using as people have been dropping like flies. People are experiencing all kinds of health maladies. Generally, it starts with the ringing of the ears, heart palpitations, skin rashes, inability to sleep through the night. And what they're doing is they're jamming our immune systems with these frequencies.
So how do the elite shield themselves from their own weapons?
Well, that's a really good question. And some of the information that we've come across is, of course, they have methods far ahead of anything that we have available to ourselves, such as cancer cures. They don't get cancer. There's chip mechanisms that we understand can fend off certain frequency attacks. We also know that they're interested in transhumanism. So much of what they're doing globally, they're interested in. And to what extent they're affected by all of the chemtrails and all of the nanofibers that are being dropped, which is phase 1 of the first protocol. It all lines up. Everything lines up. You connect the dots. You see the NASA war document. Not only does it talk about the effects of frequencies and how it will be used, they acknowledge that it will interfere with our performance, that it will cause seizures. They acknowledge this in this document. It is no longer a debate about smart meters. We don't need any more scientists or doctors saying people are getting sick. This is the intention. So we have to stop looking for more verifiable proof that people are becoming sick. This is the goal. This is the absolute goal. It's incarceration. It is enslavement, and it is depopulation, and it is massive mind control. The frequencies have multiple purposes.
What do you think the solution is to all of this multi-level attack that's been going on for a very long time?
Well, I think the solution is that people need to become educated as rapidly as possible. And there are documents that are, for example, the Silent Weapons Quiet Wars document. It's a 41-page document. It's on our website. This lays out, it's an operations, research, and technical manual. This document was the 1954 Bilderberg policy at the first Bilderberg meeting. And this laid out the strategy to control the human population. And again, I can't stress enough that everyone should read this, because they talk about how they talk about that this document should not be released to the people because it is a declaration of war.
You can't keep fighting fires, you have to go after the arsonists, and that's what you're pointing out, is the people that are responsible. And everything we see out there, what they're spraying and why are they spraying, nobody's talking about the conspiracy itself. This is a war against the people, and this, you've got a hold of those specific people, and that's why that's valuable. They're killing us.
That's exactly right.
He was playing with the water, with the paddles, the hydro repellent paddles. So he was bouncing the glob of water between the two paddles, and one of the community noticed that his eyes were not following the frickin' water. They were jumping into places that he had it for a little bit, and then after that, his eyes were completely out of sync with the water droplet.
But when those guys were playing ping pong back and forth with the water, you'll notice that the girl always is looking above the camera. And the reason why is because they're looking at the CGI feed. You know, they need to see where the item is that they're playing ping pong with, because it's not right in front of them. So once I saw Helmick's video, I really, it opened my eyes even more to, okay, because every time I've watched those astronauts, they appear to be watching a monitor above the camera, which, okay, I could see doing that. But on the other hand, if you're just up in space giving an interview or playing ping pong or whatever you're doing, then you would have no reason to look at a monitor. It doesn't matter. The camera's on you, you know that, so it doesn't matter what you look like. You shouldn't care about that, but they're always very concerned with that monitor. Well, that tells me why. It's when they're using props.
All right, let's check out some of these other pictures. I saw another one over here. This one says Drill Hill. All right. Just go in here. Totally looks like the Mars terrain to me. Just need the red filter. Yeah, if you go look at Mars pictures, go to Gigapan or any site that has, you can even go to nasa.gov and look at all their Mars frauds. Check out those images, they're identical to these. Yeah, this is very empty here. Oh, there's one of those ATVs. Alright, now we're on to something. Oh, I got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project? This thing's just driving around taking pictures. Unbelievable. Actually, if you ask me, it's quite believable. But what do you think? Are they sending scientists up on ATVs to practice on the rover in a remote island in Greenland? I doubt that, highly.
Here's another scene with Catherine Katie Coleman. Seems to be done in the suspended mode. Have a look at her hair. There's something odd about her hair. I know this is zero gravity and hair is supposed to stick out and go all over the place, but her hair doesn't really flop around naturally. It's always sticking out kind of rigidly. Maybe they permed it in that position, or perhaps they're hanging her upside down. As she shakes her head from side to side slightly, you can see the hair always springs back to a particular position with respect to her head. It should flop all over the place.
Here's iJustine. She has a vlog of her hair flows in the air, as it would, because the hair is moving through air. so it's going to flow as you bounce around. And on the International Space Station, this does not happen with the women. They do flips, they lay down, they do all kinds of things. They bounce from here to there. They pretend they're Superman. Their hair will never look like that.
In this scene, Chris Hadfield bends down in order to adjust something, and you can see on the back of his shirt a couple of upticks on either side where you would expect wires to come in on either side of that harness in order to support it. Of course, they've computer graphicked out the supporting wires. You can't actually see them.
This Chinese spacewalk, a bubble rises in the pool. It's complete fraud. Here the helmet gets hit on the International Space Station and a bubble rises into the pool. And it takes an odd trajectory because it's in a water pool. Houston, we have a problem. Space is broken. Sorry, U.S. government. I have to show them the bubble. There's the bubble in the pool that we just saw. Yep, doesn't even go in a straight line. It's in a water pool. Takes a very odd trajectory because the water is actually moving around. It's not still.
Now check this video out. The whole video is about a minute long. I said 45 seconds before was the maximum for full motion mode. It may be more like a minute that they can do this full motion zero gravity mode, because then the airplane finishes its parabolic trajectory. It has to dip down for a short period of time. There's double the gravity. Anyway, have a look at the end of this, and there's a strange motion to the center. Take a look at the way it moves. It kind of skips out of her control a couple of times. First it dips down and then up a little bit, and then at the end it goes up a little bit, and she kind of looks a bit embarrassed, like she's been caught putting her hands in the cookie jar. Oops, I hope you didn't see that. No, we didn't see, Katie. Just keep the beautiful smile on your face and that'll distract us from the hoax.
So, in this clip, they're talking, live feed, and we have a astronaut go by us in the background, obviously trying to give it a more realistic, spacey, station busy effect. And so we see the guy come flying along in a harness on his wires. Pretty amazing.
At the time of the Apollo 11 mission, Buzz Aldrin was a 32-degree Freemason. They were in good company, as many of NASA's astronauts were also Freemasons.
One of the ways we promote ourselves among Masons, a reason to join, is we consider ourselves the University of Freemasonry. And the real emphasis in the Scottish Rite is on receiving more light, learn more about the history of our world.
We always indulge in a few pagan rites to appease the EVA gods. These little ceremonies are very, very important to ensure mission success if you do them right.
Another aspect of the illusion of space travel is spacewalks. These are faked inside a swimming pool. It's a custom-built swimming pool, and that's a great way to fake zero gravity. About 6 months ago, in 2013, a gallon of water leaked into one of their spacesuits in a matter of seconds. NASA doesn't really have a proper explanation for how on earth this could have happened. There shouldn't be water leaking into someone's helmet and a person almost drowning in space. How can you drown in space? They now wear snorkels to make sure that they don't drown in space. How can this be happening? A snorkel in space? There could be some water in the porous plate sublimator. When they were on the moon, they supposedly had about a gallon of water, but that cooling system is supposed to be well away from their head. There really is no sane explanation for why a gallon of water would leak into someone's spacesuit, unless you realise the whole thing is faked inside a swimming pool, which is the faking of spacewalks in a swimming pool. In this vid, you catch a glimpse of someone wearing a scuba tank. Scuba tanks in space? Snorkels and scuba tanks in space? They act like a spacewalk is just a walk in the park, like there's very little danger involved at all.
And then they also pretend that it travels in all the same trajectory, and this thing just scoops everything up. And then it has a claw that can grab big pieces of space debris, and then little pieces of space debris get caught on the sides by panels. Of course, there's no in-between. Do they catch the middle-sized pieces of space debris with the box? And then Debris Drone 1 does not send the package down to Earth to get incinerated. No, the whole thing goes down to Earth to become incinerated, and it's fucking useless. So, because they say there's over 500,000 pieces of space debris, they have to send thousands of space debris Drone 1s. But the important thing about this is the camera. They show you a camera on this satellite drone. So somebody is operating that claw and they're getting this space junk. Why can't you see the video from this camera? This thing has a camera. Wouldn't you like to see this thing in operation? Here's a beautiful detailed image from that model. You see that huge swirl of clouds between Australia and Africa, and there it is on the model. And the crazy thing about this is when you type Earth from space in the image search, Earth from space, not NASA composite computer model of the Earth, literally Earth from space, which means you want to see pictures of the Earth from space in the image search. These images will come up over and over and over again, and the sick thing is, they show this model in documentaries about space. They show this to you, the same model with the same cloud. They don't even change it. Here's a picture of Jupiter and the Earth. It's not a real picture, it's an illustration, but see, it's the Apollo 17 image of Earth. It's over 40 years old, and they still use it for illustrations in modern times. Here's another image that somebody put together, and they used the Apollo 17 image of Earth from space, which you've been seeing literally your entire life over and over and over again. And your kids, as they go to school, they see this image in their science books. There it is used again. In modern times, it's over 40 years old. It's gonna be 50 years old soon.
How do you brainwash? Well, you repeat it. You repeat the same thing over and over again. You know, if somebody's resisting the concept, if you keep fucking repeating it, after 6 times, they'll incorporate it in their brain. They may not agree with it, but repeat it another 1,000 times, they'll start saying it. It's funny, back in the 60s when they went to the moon, this is the first time we actually had like an instrument of flight to actually go high enough to actually fucking check out if what we agreed to 500 years ago was real. So if they were wrong after 500 years, the question is, would they tell you?
Bouncing, obviously, you know, with something's helping him a little bit, right? Lifting up just a little bit higher.
I know the footage.
Yeah, as he artfully goes behind a small rock, all of a sudden he takes this huge leap, right? And there's a trampoline on the other side of that rock. That's what's going on there. So Kubrick is using wires, he's using trampolines, he's using slow motion, he's using anything he can to put forth the effect.
Here's like a perfect example of them landing on the moon. I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. I don't know what the big deal was with being the first guy on the moon. It seems the camera crew was already there.
A warning about a cult of pedophiles.
He was trying to warn.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it goes all the way through to Eyes Wide Shut. It's constantly trying to warn us that there's a cult of people trying to take our children.
It's the cult, and it's here.
It is the cult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're at work, and they're not going to stop. They're relentless.
Oh, no. They've got less to fear now than they ever had. They own the judges, they own the courts, they own everything.
They are on the
literally
final switch.
That's right.
From there, that point of view I've never seen, and it's funny when you click on Google Images, photo of the Earth, keep going, because this is realistic. But you'll see 40 pages on Google, but it's always the same fucking photo. It's the same photo. They just changed the contrast. Check it out, keep going. Oh yeah, boom, 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 40 pages. Look closely. It's always the same. Oh, what is that? I guess this is a photo of the Hubble telescope taking a picture of itself. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's an authentic photo of the Hubble telescope out there doing its job. Isn't that amazing how they could take a photo of the thing taking photos? Out in outer space. Unbelievable. This is a moon they discovered off of Mars. At least Opipapa. And if you do a close-up on it, you see all the craters and the texture of the moon on my shirt. There it is. It's just that. It's just a bunch of paint. Next image. And they actually came up with a new term for it. It was a collisionary supernova. Unbelievable that they actually caught this. If you get a zoom in on this, there's a zoom in that Hubble did on this. These are actual fucking suns being formed. Unbelievable. Look at this. All these fucking suns. Can we get another? Keep going. And they're being formed on a Christmas tree.
Yeah, and this all results from, the early 50s when they studied in the MK Ultra programs. And they were studying how to influence people and how to get them to do what they want you to do. And, and that's when it began. It began with, in the early 50s and reached the turning point in the 90s. And now we're in this place where they're going to start enacting the most absurd things. And we're not going to be able to stop them. And for sure they're going to come and take the guns. And to me, it looks like a fait accompli. It's coming. It may not be next year, but it's coming. We're all going to be outlaws. Anyone with a gun is going to be an outlaw very soon.
Sure.
And we have to decide what that means.
And the youth get thoroughly terrorized and brainwashed by all of this as well. They can't see through the lies because they've been lied to their entire life. This is all that they know. I made it to the moon, now on to Mars! And she's kind of famous now when it comes to NASA. This 13-year-old wants to be the first person to live on Mars. Never mind the fact that it's incredibly ridiculous to believe that they would be sending people to Mars. People love science, they would figure that out. They would look into what it would mean to go to Mars. Like, what would it take? What would it be like traveling to Mars? But then you got articles from SpaceX talking about they could send people to Jupiter's moon, so naturally nobody uses their brain. They think all of this is just a road trip. It's not a big deal.
Oh, this is amazing. We just went to Mars. Hey, big round of applause now for the Americans go to Mars, and this is the official image of them landing there. It's fucking funny. It's like, isn't it amazing how they were landing there and they already had an airbrush artist with his easel set up to paint it land that quick. It's like unbelievable. How many people think this is real? This is the official landing. Oh, then they got another one with a metal sort of pipe and sand in black and white. That's proof. They were there, man. They're landing on the sand. Check it out. That's it. There you go. Some more images. This is what they're doing on Mars right now. Moving around with their little rover. That's a real photo. Look at that. This is another. I swear to God, they're on Mars right now. Look at that. This thing's moving around. I don't even know what it does. It's like a weird sort of sample collector. It's a spider. It's a spider sampler. It's a spider sampler. Sand sampler. It's a sand sampler. They call it. It's getting spice. It's getting spices from Mars.
Everybody just accepts all of this because they don't know of the criminal global control. They can't question this. They don't know that there's anything wrong. If you're in a vacuum, wouldn't you balloon? You have the vacuum of space pulling on your spacesuit. They show you videos of where you can put your hand in the gloves in a vacuum chamber and see how hard it is to articulate the fingers and move your hands in these gloves. Yet they do spacewalks in space all day long, and they have no trouble handling tools, handling small pieces with these gloves that have the vacuum of space pulling their fingers apart. No, they have no trouble at all. In real life, they would actually be doing training for spacewalks also in a vacuum. Why don't they put people in a vacuum here on Earth? Is it because it's dangerous? If you're expecting these people to go into outer space, which is the most hostile environment imaginable, because you got space debris traveling at 17,500 miles an hour orbiting the Earth that can kill you, doesn't matter what size it is, it could be smaller than a grain of sand. If it flies through your fucking body, you're dead. And they talk about micrometeorites. They talk about damage that's done to the International Space Station. This stuff is supposed to be traveling at incredible speeds. If it hits you, you're dead. And then they got radiation in space. Oh, but does the spacesuits protect you from the radiation? How on earth can spacesuits protect you from anything? It is cartoon physics, and the people just buy it. It's a cartoon reality. They want you to believe you can do that in a vacuum. You can hold power tools like that and work on a space station that needs maintenance on the outside while the vacuum of space is pulling your hand apart. How fast would you get tired? Why is this Muppet straining? There's the new spacesuit we got, Buzz Lightyear, Disney, Walt Disney bullshit. Again, why can't you have a vacuum on Earth, put the guy in the vacuum, have him lift up the rock so he can see what it's like to be on Mars? If you need to simulate zero G, put this guy on harnesses, but let him experience the vacuum. Let him pick up the rock in the vacuum. Those videos would exist in real life if this was real science. They would actually be doing that. It wouldn't just be spacewalks are done in water tanks for training. That's fucking ludicrous. And if we could also wake up to the public to the fact that there should be video of an Earth eclipse from the moon, video that would have existed a long time ago if NASA actually did work in space, well, NASA would magically put fake video out there because they can't cover all their bases and they don't want people waking up to their fraud. All you have to do is investigate NASA and think about what should exist. If the space programs were real, what would we be shown? What would be the real science? Wouldn't they test the satellite technology in a vacuum? Wouldn't we have those videos? When you are supposed to believe that countries all over the world have their own satellites. Of course, if satellites were the size of school buses back in the 70s and they evolved all the way down to CubeSat satellites that could fit in the palm of your hand, of course you would have those videos. Of course you would see those test videos. But no, you got nothing. Where are the videos of a vacuum chamber and some technology whizzing around on a string showing that the satellites can be propelled in a vacuum? Doesn't exist from any country, anywhere. It's all cartoon bullshit. You have to question what you were told and you have to look into things because you're being lied to every single day, and the fraud of our criminal global controllers is pretty disgusting. It needs to be exposed.
And this is their war plan. This is the war plan. So we have to go to the war plan. This is only 41 pages. You take out the diagrams and you've got 36 pages. And it's not hard to read. They say that it's the silent weapon technology has evolved from operations research, a strategic and tactical developed under the military management in England during World War II. The original purpose of this research was to study strategic and tactical problems of air and land defense with objective effectiveness used in initiated military resources against foreign enemies. And they go on to talk about how they came across technologies that they had. Oh, in 1952, the grant period terminated and the high-level meeting of the elite was held to determine the next phase of the social operations research. The Harvard project had been very fruitful, as is borne out by the publication of some of the results in 1953, suggesting the feasibility of economic engineering, studies of structure of the American economy. And they talk about how it was engineered in the last half of the 1940s, the new, quiet war machine stood, so to speak, in sparkling gold-plated hardware on the showroom floor by 1954. So this document talks about a combination of irresistible attacks upon humanity and how they will control humanity. Politically, they talk about how they set up the political system right and left so that we would feel our grievances were aired and our frustrations could come out. But the bankers were behind everyone who was elected, and they laugh at us. They laugh at us. The very, very last, and I'll go to this right now because we'll come back to the document itself, but the very last statement in this document, it says, Factor 6, cattle. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden, or trainers of the same. So what they say in this document is they will dole out poisonous foods. It's not what we need, but it's what we want, and those that decide to eat these foods will have the consequences of that. They tell us how they set up all the social engineering, how they devise the family, how they crumble the family, how they set up the war machine, how they influence thinking in the family unit to allow the family to give up their children to war for a rich man's fodder. It's a document that discusses the artificial womb. They believe that people need to feel protected and that the elites are going to serve as the womb for protection of the people, that they'll have a place to take cover and hide from the reality of life because we just are not capable of managing the reality of life. So they will set up that artificial womb. It says, the objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity, survival, to provide security for freedom, and to provide defensive protection for offensive activity. And they say that from the time a person leaves its mother's womb, in every effort is directed towards building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. So they set themselves up to protect us, to keep us crippled, to numb us down with foods so that our pineal gland is interfered with. We're never able to reach our higher consciousness. And right now, the massive fluoridation across the United States is to collapse the ability for us to think. They're shutting us down right now.
Take your baby and make it Rosemary's Baby.
That's exactly right.
It's very similar to The Matrix, which was based on a DARPA document. I mean, it's similar, isn't it? It's problem, reaction, solution, the same way they always operate. So I guess the best thing to do is wake everyone up and hope that a grassroots movement can change it. Do you think revolution would be necessary at some point, or could it change without that? What do you think?
Well, I think we need a revelation, not a revolution. A revolution would only bring in martial law, in the opinion of what we are looking at, would bring in martial law. It would also allow people to be targeted with the weaponry that they cannot wait to roll out on us. You add the drones, you add the microdust, you add in the beam weapons that they tell us they have. They also have a blast wave accelerator. And when you look at the population of the United States, the majority of the population lives along the coastlines. And the blast wave accelerator was a tidal wave invention that the United States dreamt up with the Soviet Union back in the 40s. Actually, it was going to be used in World War II instead of the bombs, but they decided to use the bombs instead. And the blast wave accelerator exploits the methane deposits on the seabed and causes a fingerprintless, plumeless tidal wave on low-lying areas around the perimeter of any country that they just.
You've got your weaponized Gestapo meter that keeps track of every house and every movement and every bit of energy that you're already doing and can report back to whoever is observing. So we're virtually in a concentration camp right now.
Yes,
in the meantime, the food supplies are being reduced. As you're mentioning in your other interview, how the dams are being taken out, the food. I mean, it's so obvious that the federal government coming in and wanting your child even at earlier and earlier ages, every place, everywhere, and it's based on the foundation of climate change, which you mentioned. You might want to get into that and your Iron Mountain.
That's absolutely true. All the documents, the Iron Mountain document, even the NASA war document, talks about there are too many people using too much stuff, and the Earth cannot support this. And they've come up with the fear-based, scientific, fraudulent information that people are now accepting. They're rewriting history and they're rewriting science with the idea that people are using too much resources. We have to reduce CO2 and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And that is flying through every city across the world right now. It's written into all local government documents, and cities now are, California, for example, with the CARB initiative, where we have to actually pay for the air we breathe, and we're taxed for the air. It's like the fiat money. We've accepted false-backed money, which they tell us in the Iron document, or in the Silent Weapons document. One of the reasons that they send our men and women off to war is to reduce the population, because they have stolen from them. They've taken real labor service in exchange for illegitimate false fiat money. So they have to eliminate the creditors. That's another aspect of war, is to reduce the creditors. But it's all based on the false pollution that is not false. They've created the pollution. When you look at the Iron Mountain document, you will see the methods in which they were going to create pollution. They even say that they will deforest us, and they're doing that with the chemtrail, the secret chemtrail or geoengineering program or weather modification. Actually, that program has multiple layers. Not only does it increase weather events, we've just experienced some horrific events here in the United States with massive tornadoes that just destroyed a number of cities in Oklahoma. We're being hit globally. They're hitting our food supply. It does reduce our food supply. It will increase the cost of our food. It's changing the pH in the soil, which will then fit to the prescribed Monsanto mega corporation food takeover of the globe. That is the intention of Monsanto, is global food domination. They have the seeds. The seeds will grow in the polluted soil that they are creating. This is all by design. So what do we do about this, you asked? We first must become educated. And I would say that the quickest way for people to become educated is look at these very simple source documents. Look at the Quiet Weapons Silent War document. Look at the Iron Mountain document and the New World Order Exposed 1969. They're all on our website, stopthecrime.net. Of all the research we have done, if you just get those basic documents understood, if everyone understands the fraud, then we will be able to eliminate this. We don't have to go on with this fraud. We do not. And people keep saying, well, there's more of us than them. Well, that may be true. But sadly, now, there are technologies that are so unbelievable that people won't even realize what hit them. And that is the strategy of the future wars and the wars that we're facing in our country. But I would say everyone needs to look at the NASA document. You need to move from the illusion, the non-reality that you are living in. You need to move into a new reality formed by the truths that these documents convey. So that then from those realities, then you can look at solutions. You can't shoot from the hip and look for solutions if you have not learned who's doing this to us, how they're doing this to us, and the documents that tell us how they are doing this to us.
Like the Truman Show, which was designed to create a false reality for entertainment, the false reality we have now is designed to kill us. This is a war against the people. This is why that tabloid came out, Prepare to Die. And they're doing it in so many deliberate ways in which those documents show that it's been in the works for a long time. And you not only see the individuals, which can be kind of identified with the Bilderbergers, the Trilats, and Skull and Bones. They are in the saddle. They are the ones determining policy, the scientific advisor to the president, of John P. Holdren, in charge of the chemtrails. We have MITRE with the former head of the CIA directing all these branches of government. We've got guys like Leon Panetta, which is the head of the CIA and the Department of Defense, moving our armies over to NATO and moving without a constitution. This is a direct war against us, and we see people dying like flies now. And like you said, it doesn't have fingerprints on it because of the methods that they're using, but it's as real as people getting strokes and cancer and autism and Alzheimer's. It's so clear. I mean, the stats, the mathematics prove the point. And so they have to know, people have to know what's going on and to strategize to fight it. And they can, because the only way they're getting away with this is by the lies. And if you succumb to the mass media, the 3 networks and the 2 wire services, you're never going to get out of it.
Well, it actually says in the document, in the NASA war document, that they will use mass media propaganda. That is prevalent.
CNN syndrome, is that?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they call it. But they're literally going through this document. Oh, they're going to also use explosive dust opportunities. They talk about how, the dust will infiltrate deeply into buried and other such targets. They're saying in here too, if you move, they can see you and you're dead. So the technology, sensors in everything. There is an amazing mission statement that I found on PSI technology out of the Carnegie Mellon Institute. And the mission statement stated that they were changing the global infrastructure to that of computers and technology, and that would include our entire structure, not only utilities, but civil, government policies. And what is also very interesting, we went to Al Gore's recent book review. He wrote a book called The Future, and he talks about how artificial intelligence is going to take over, and that we're going to see changes within the United States that have not been seen in 500 years. And he talks about how it's just not efficient to continue with humans. The same thing. These all tie in. They all tie in. We have a think tank that is plotting and scheming against humanity because they believe that it's too frail. They talk about the U.S. Brain Project, and it begun in the 90s. They say that it was funded by 16 organizations across 5 agencies. NIH, which of course is the National Health Institute, the Department of Defense, NASA, and the Department of Energy. And they talk about how they have over 10,000 individual presentations at annual meetings for the Society for Neuroscience. And essentially, they have redesigned humanity. And there is a fascinating life story of a 4th generation clone called Michael Prince. And that is on our website under the NASA document link, and I urge everybody to listen to this interview with Michael Prince. He was killed in 2011, and he is a 4th generation clone. The levels of technology, the length of time that they've had technologies are unbelievable. What they also say in the Iron Mountain documentary is that they will control the educational system, that they will replace the education system with computers. They're saying that in the NASA document too. Everything will be telecommuting, teleshopping, tele-entertainment, teletravel, teleeducation. This way they can rewrite history. Everything will be on Kindle, and it'll be very easy to change books, to change the language. Recently, I was listening to a weather report, and the reporter said it will be sunny tomorrow. But I'm calling sunshine now a soft sunshine, because the sun doesn't shine like it used to. I mean, that is what I'm saying. The reporter didn't say that, but the reporter now is saying a soft sunshine. They're rewriting our definition of what a sunny day is supposed to look like, because we're under the constant vellum of this secret, non-existent atmospheric poisoning of our skies. So they're rewriting our vocabulary. They're rewriting everything about us. And they're keeping us so sick from the fluoride, from the aspartame in the food, all of the dyes and chemicals on everything. I mean, even the receipts that we get from filling our cars with gas are poisonous. We shouldn't be touching them. And so we need to navigate. I say that life on a daily basis is like trying to walk through a landmine field. And if you get to the other side at the end of the day, you've made good choices, because they've certainly put and placed landmines in our lives.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid, really. I mean,
the impact that it's having on our lives, that we should be sitting here right now having this conversation because of what has been orchestrated against us. Our futures are being determined for us. Our lifespans are being decided upon.
it's fascinating information. So the best way to get access to all this is stopthecrime.net.
Stopthecrime.net. It links to our other websites as well, which is smartmetersmurder.com. We have invaluable YouTube videos up on smartmetersmurder.com. There's a series done by Barry, B-A-R-R-I-E, Trower, T-R-O-W-E-R, who is a scientist out of the UK, and talks about the weaponization of frequencies as it relates specifically to the wireless, and in particular the vast deployment throughout America and other countries as well of the cell phone towers. They're erupting everywhere, and they're disguising them as trees, they're disguising them in church steeples. Even when you drive through the desert, they're disguised into yuccas, and that is a cell phone tower. They're also, this is very interesting, they're putting them in mobile oil signs in gas stations, so you don't even see them. Now, when you look, if you're really aware of spotting cell phone towers, my grandchildren can spot them a mile away. But you can go to shopping centers where they have landscaping and the uplights amongst the landscaping, and you'll see many uplight standards that are disguised cell phone towers. And you don't think of it, you're just thinking that it's lights within the parking lot, and they're actual cell phone towers.
And they're in church steeples as well, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, they are. And they're paying schools to put them on their campuses. Right now, there's a newly discovered cancer cluster at San Diego State University, and there have been a number of students and faculty that have gotten brain tumors. So we are in a takedown of frequencies admitted by this document. We have the proof, we have the military, the agencies that admit to this. We don't need to prove the deaths on the campuses near towers, because it says towers will be used on page 98. It says that towers will be used to emit frequencies. So again, this is their document. This is what they tell us. On page 98, a typical scenario: takedown of the U.S. by 10 people and $10 million. Binary biologicals, imported vitamins and clothing, the food supply will be poisoned, terror attacks with vaccines and with viruses. They talk about our railroads will be attacked, selective anti-personnel with radiation frequencies, microwaves from the towers. The water supply will be contaminated via intercontinental unmanned vehicles, accompanied by serious psy-war, and that's the CNN syndrome. So they're telling us here how easy it would be to take down the United States with these new technologies. We've got to expose this.
Thanks so much for all this information, Deborah Tavares, and we will check out your website and try to make this go viral and get it out there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.